Okay, welcome everyone. So this is the volunteer standards of conduct training. We're gonna go ahead and get started with this section. Obviously, if you are gonna be attending the next training, I will be sending that Zoom link, or you can join using the Zoom link that I have sent you already. So let me go ahead and continue to the next page, PowerPoint. All right, there you go. Okay, so volunteer standards of conduct. Our agenda for today is we're going to go over the Vita program mission, Vita's goals for 2022, and we're going to go over the volunteer standards of conduct training. The next training for the high school students is happening January 13, 2022. So if you're registered for that, we'll be meeting again that afternoon. I usually start off with introducing everyone, but since we're a large group, I'm going to just introduce myself, and if you want to say hi in the chat box and what school you're from, you're welcome to do that. So my name is Janet Terrazas, and I'm the program coordinator for the Vita program here at United Way of South Texas in McAllen. I've been with the Vita program for 2 years. I actually started as an intern here at United Way, and then I started doing contract work with the Vita program right when COVID hit. So that first year that we started, I didn't get much experience. So this past year that happened, that was my first year actually, actually participating at a site with the Vita program. So this will be my second year actually as a Vita program coordinator. Thank you so much for everyone that is introducing themselves in the chat. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Vita's, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program is completely volunteer operated. So what that means is that we do have 2 site coordinators at each location, but the ones that run the actual locations are all our volunteers that help us. So thanks to all the volunteers that participate with the Vita program, your help at each location and the amount of hours that we all work together make a huge impact in the community, helping those people, those families save a lot of money with the free income tax preparation. So I'm going to go ahead and state the mission for our volunteer income tax assistance program, and our mission is to assist eligible taxpayers in satisfying their tax responsibilities by providing free tax return preparation. And to establish the greatest degree of public trust, volunteers are required to maintain the highest standards of ethical conduct and provide quality service. So here's this picture right here is when COVID hit. Our sites, actually all of our sites shut down in 2020. And our office at United Way remained open to assist those families who were scheduled right to do their income tax, but all the sites closed down. We decided to just open our location, and with the small group of volunteers, we assisted over 100 more families during that time. We do have some new goals for this year, and our goals are to serve 3,986 clients. Last year we reached over 2,000 clients, but this year we are aiming a little higher, based on our IRS grant that we always submit each year. We thought it was possible since we were opening more sites, and we also got a little bit more of a, like, we got used to the whole process that we're taking by appointment, and our drop-off delivery method, because all this was new to us. We used to not do by appointment, but because of COVID, obviously we wanted to have more control of what the people, how many people were showing up to the locations. So we thought it was possible. Now that COVID numbers are spiking up again, it's okay if we don't reach goal, but this is our goal for this year. We also want to provide financial literacy to 75% of our total Vita clients. And by doing that is that we will be sharing a flyer about budgeting and savings to all of our clients that are scheduled an appointment. So once they sign in at the locations, we will be sharing a flyer so they can take to their vehicle and read while we prepare their income tax. So that's another goal of ours. The third goal is to collect data, language data of our Vita clients. Last year, when I was working on that IRS grant, we realized that we didn't collect a lot of language data of our Vita clients, and that is why we want to collect this year. It's part of our grant, so we want to make sure that the IRS sees that the number and the families that only speak in maybe English, Spanish in our location. So we want to make sure we gather that. Okay, and also just a reminder, we do have 15 Vita sites operating this year. So all sites are required to serve at least 50 clients each year. If we don't reach the 50 clients each year, the site has to shut down because the IRS identifies them like a site that's not really needed in that area. But our sites always do a great job of serving more than 50 clients. We always have more than 50 clients or over. I think Spear Memorial Library is the one that, and United Way are the sites that operate the most, with over 300 clients during the tax season. Okay, Vita services will be provided only by appointment. All our clients will be calling that Vita direct line, and we will be scheduling their appointment at the locations. So people are not just going to show up at the locations with their paperwork. They should be calling us to that Vita direct line. And we here at United Way, we will be having a master scheduler who will be taking care of the appointments. If you happen to be at a site and a client wants an appointment, there will be a QR code that they can scan and sign up to get an appointment. Or if or the site coordinator is able to schedule them right then and there, they're welcome to do so. But it's only by appointment because we do want to limit those people showing up at the site. I don't know if anybody here have used the Vita services before, but I've heard that the clients would, make a huge line. It would go out around the buildings just to get the Vita services, and sometimes it was they could only serve a certain amount of clients, and the rest of the clients would be upset. So we also kind of want to help them, focus. We only have an appointment for you, and we'll help you during this time. It's more convenient for a lot of people too. We also changed into a drop-off method for those who were site last year. You're familiar with this process. For those that are new, our drop-off method includes helping clients or helping the families by appointment, but they come into the entrance of the building where the Vita site is operating, and we serve them at the entrance. So we collect their paperwork at the entrance, and we help them fill out those important forms that we need, and then they have to go back into their vehicle and wait while our volunteers inside the building are working on the tax return. We designed this method to have our volunteers and our clients and our site coordinators safe due to COVID. So that is another reason why we changed to a drop-off method. And all this method is already explained and submitted to the IRS. So they're expecting all our Vita sites to follow those steps that I submitted. So every Vita site is gonna be using the drop-off method. We also serve families earning a household income of $60,000 or less per year. So if you know a family member, a friend, maybe you earn less than 60,000 a year, you can let them know that we have these services available. People who earn more than 60,000, we're not able to assist them with that because the IRS takes track of, those income tax. And if we have a lot of people over the 60,000, well, they will come back and question us. But sometimes we do have clients who earn 61, 62,000, and it's okay. We just don't want to have a lot of people earning more than 60,000 a year. We also serve families with filing status as head of household, single or married filing joint. We do not assist families who are filing as married filing separate. We have a lot of clients who may show up and they say that they're married, but they don't want to do it together. They're going to be filing a separate. Unfortunately, we are not able to assist those type of returns just because our software is limited on those type of tax returns. They have to go somewhere else, maybe a paid preparer. Okay. Also, we want to check that all the forms that the taxpayers are bringing us are within the scope of the Vita program. We have our 4012, which is our resource guide. And that 4012 provides us with the list of all the forms, and it mentions if the form is within the scope of the Vita program or not. So if you get a form that you're not familiar with, on your 4012, you can go ahead and turn to page, I believe it's page 5, and it will provide those list of all those forms there. I wanted to show a little bit of the drop-off, virtual drop-off process that we're having. So the clients will call the Vita direct number to schedule an appointment prior to the operating dates. And then the client will be informed on the drop-off process and the guidelines to follow at each site. So we will explain to them the process that we're taking. So no client comes in surprised that they need to wear a mask. While they're setting up their appointment, we will be reminding them that masks are required. They will be waiting in their vehicle, and some sites are not open to the public. Like, for example, our location at United Way, we are closed, so we won't have access to restrooms. We remind them of all these processes and guidelines that we're following. That way that they are ready when they come in for the tax return. We don't want to surprise them and get them, upset. The Vita scheduler will mention the required forms and ask the client COVID-19 related questions. And the list of the client's names, phone numbers, emails, and notes will be available to the site coordinators via a Google link. We're taking by appointments, and the site coordinators have that Google link accessible to every site. If you're a site coordinator and you're in this training, you should have already received a link to that Google link to your specific site. The clients will wait in their vehicle until they're called to meet with the greeter, interview specialist outside or at the entrance of the building. That's basically it. We collect their documents and take it inside to our volunteers. The volunteers prepare the tax return, and then the other site coordinator reviews their tax return, and then we can, review it with the taxpayer outside again, and then they can sign and we can submit the tax return. But I hope that gives you a better idea how we're doing it. Your volunteers won't be exposed face to face to the client. We are still dealing with a lot of paperwork, personal information, so we will have gloves available and hand sanitizers, masks for those site coordinators who are going to be face to face with the client. All the PPE required, and we are letting all our site coordinators know that you do have to wipe down for each client that you see, because we will be, seeing them at the entrance of a building. They touch pins, they touch tables, or anything that they might be in contact with, just wipe down between each client. Does anybody have questions regarding this section? Okay. If you haven't seen it already, I've shared this in the emails that I've sent before. Our Vita brochure for this year has all the sites that will be operating. We have McAllen, Edinburgh, Far, Alamo, Weslaco, Mission, Rio Grande City, and Roma. Rio Grande City, there's their phone number to schedule an appointment. Roma, there's a phone number to schedule the appointment. But if you want to schedule at any other location, you have to use the Vita direct line to schedule that appointment. We also included the phone number for the IRS. Since we have a lot of clients who have questions regarding their tax return, we just let them know to call the IRS if there's nothing else that we can do to help them. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm admitting those people who are in the waiting room. Thank you, Miss Gail, for letting me know. It didn't pop up here on the screen. Okay, so there's also three ways our clients can get a free income tax assistance. So the first way is to schedule an appointment, right, at one of our Vita sites. So that is the phone number they need to call. The second option is to do their income tax on their own using myfreetaxes.com. We have this. MyFreeTaxes is also going to be open at the UTRGV U Central. So MyFreeTaxes will be open there for those who need to access, a computer. They have that computer lab open for the myfreetaxes.com clients, but you do have to do it on your own. There will be a site coordinator there only guiding those clients through the process. And the third option that we have is the virtual assistants. We're partnering with United Way of Southern Cameron County to provide virtual assistance using getyourrefund.com in order for our clients to be able to upload their documents electronically. And our volunteers, our experienced and trusted volunteers are assisting us with those clients who prefer that virtual assistance. Right now, they haven't given us our unique URL link for those clients who want to do by virtually, but we will be receiving that soon. We also included what those clients are going to need, and in English and in Spanish. If you need some brochures, I have some available here at the United Way office in McAllen, so I can share that. I can share some with you. Okay, and so volunteers who earn 15 hours or more with the Vita program, they're invited to our United Way of South Texas recognition event or ceremony in April 2022. So at the end of the tax season, we usually have this recognition event for all our volunteers. Last year we had a curbside event, a recognition event because of COVID. Obviously, we had to think outside the box and recognize our volunteers by having a small something for them. Like they came by, took photos, took their gifts, their Vita gifts, and then they picked up breakfast here at our office. So usually it's they usually get an event center where all the volunteers are invited. All the volunteers who earn more than 15 hours are invited and they have music, and it's fun, right? That's what I've heard, but I've only had curbside events for now. We're hoping that, we want to do an event, recognition event again, but we just need to know where we're at with COVID, if the numbers are spiking or not, to see what we're going to do this year. We haven't thought about that yet, but it does happen end of tax season once everything's closed. Okay, so we do have A website where your volunteers can sign up to go to these Vita locations that will be open. If you are from Vanguard Academy or Lamar Academy, more than likely you're probably gonna go to your Vita site at your school. For those who like Sherry ISD, your volunteers can sign up to Volunteer South Texas, to one of the Vita locations in Hidalgo and Star. I know that most of your students prefer the Spear Memorial Library, and that one's open for volunteers, but we also have other sites that are welcoming volunteers to help out. You would have to go into volunteersouth.texas.org under needs. And you probably have to go to tab number 3 because it's been some time that I posted these, where all these locations are there for you to sign up. Anybody who have questions regarding Volunteer South Texas? Okay. We will be needing to create 2 Vita accounts. The first one would be Link and Learn account. This is the testing site. So all our volunteers need to create an account using the Link and Learn certification.com to be able to access the test. And we'll go over this at the end of this training, but it's to take the test for the volunteer standard of conduct, intake, interview, and quality review test, and the advanced scenario tests. Our volunteers are also required to create an account using the TaxPayer account. This is our software for the actual tax practice lab and where we actually prepare real tax returns at the sites. So it's vita.taxpayerpro.com. And we're able to work on advanced scenarios 7 through 9, which are found on page 81 on the publication 6744. This here is the practice lab where we actually have those fake scenarios. And this one here, the Pro Online, is where we actually log in to assist those clients at the sites where you're already volunteering. Okay, and we'll go over this at the end. Training materials, if you haven't picked up, I have some copies here at the office for the 6744. 6744 is the where we'll find the practice questions for all 3 exams. The publication 4012 will be available at all the sites. Unfortunately, I don't have enough copies to provide to everyone the 4012, but it's available PDF version, and I will share. I already shared it using the email that I sent you all. This is the resource guide, and every site will have this resource guide available if you need a reference back to any questions. Okay, but this helps us during preparing tax returns or doing the advanced scenario trainings. This one, but we will be using this 6744 this training. Okay, so we're gonna go over this information that can be found also. Additional information can be found on publication 4961 on our irs.gov website. You don't have to print it out. It's just there for reference if you want to take a look at it. But it's a volunteer standard of conduct and ethics training handbook. Okay, so as a volunteer in the Vita program, you must follow the quality site requirements. Each site has requirements to follow because the IRS, well, before COVID, the IRS can show up any minute and they expect us to follow those requirements, okay? We cannot accept payment, solicit donations, or accept refund payments for federal or state tax return preparation from customers. So no type of payment. I know some clients get really, they're really grateful for our services and they want to, give us a tip or even give us their refund, yes. They would try to give me their stimulus check, and I was like, no, I cannot accept that. But they do want to, because they're so thankful for our services. And we cannot accept any type of payment, no gift cards, nothing like that. We can accept food if a client brings us, food, and it's your site coordinator's decision to accept that or not. The next one is not solicit business from taxpayers you assist, or use the knowledge you've gained from, like, their information about them, for any direct or indirect personal benefit for you or any other specific individual. Not knowingly prepare a false return. You don't want to. Sometimes clients say a little bit. They say, they mention, their tax situation to you, but sometimes some of them want to retract and kind of lie to us, right? Whenever we question them on certain things. But if you already know whatever they're telling you, if they already told you, you cannot just continue and pretend you didn't hear something. For example, we get a lot of clients that say, well, I'm here with my husband, but his appointment's at 2. Well, you already know that we don't assist clients who are married filing separate, right? So if you already know that her husband has another appointment and she's doing her tax returns right now, then it's something that we have to bring up to their attention and say, we don't do married filing separate. I'm sorry, and just explain to them why. But that's what I mean with not knowingly prepare false returns. Number 5 is not engage in criminal, infamous, dishonest, notoriously disgraceful conduct, or any other conduct deemed to have a negative effect on the Vita TCE programs. And treat all taxpayers in a professional, courteous, and respectful manner. A lot of clients wait, at the sites for a while, based on their tax return. Depending on the tax return, some clients can wait up to an hour, and they may get frustrated and come up to us and just approach us in a rude way. But we just want to let them know that we understand them and that we're working as quickly as we can to finish up their tax return. A lot of people are going through a lot right now, maybe COVID, maybe a lot of these low-income families are dealing, financially. So we just want to be professional and understanding to them. Okay, there's 10 quality site requirements, and the first one is certification. Everyone that steps into the Vita site needs to have their certification, right, to enter the locations. So everyone has to have passed their test in order to be helping a client out. Even if you're a greeter and you're only going to be doing the intake information, you do need to be certified to the level to able to be helping that specific client. We have a process at each location for intake, interview, and quality review. We don't skip over these processes. We do the intake to get a little bit of information on the client, but we also interview them on that information that we gather. And then we prepare the tax return, and then we have a quality review process, which our site coordinators review the work from our volunteers. So we don't skip over those processes, and every site needs to follow those. It's part of the method that allows us to double check our work, make sure everything's correct, and let having a consistent reputation of I always do my taxes with Vita. That's something that we want from our clients, to know that we're reliable and that we do a great job. Even though some of our volunteers are students, they're learning, but we're also providing them with a process that is consistent. Okay, confirming photo identification and taxpayer identification numbers is important because we always want to see the identification of the taxpayer and their social. So we always want to see their ID or their driver's license and their social. There's some clients that have IT numbers, and those IT numbers usually are in a letter, an IRS letter, right? With the number up at the top, but we always want to make sure that we have a photo ID for every client. If they have dependents that they're gonna include in their income tax, they need the social security number for that dependent. Reference materials. So every location, every site that you go to will have reference materials. This includes the Vita box for those that have previously been Vita sites, are familiar with the Vita box, and the Vita box has information that we need to have at each site in case we have questions, and we need contact numbers, if we need to reach out to the IRS. All this information will be in this Vita box and available for our site coordinators and our students. This year, we developed a Vita binder that will be at each location, and the Vita binder has phone numbers to the IRS and phone numbers to other organizations that can help the taxpayer if they need a specific form or they need other tax advice. So it's going to be really helpful to have at each site, and it's available for volunteers and site coordinators. Volunteer agreement. Every volunteer needs to turn in a volunteer agreement at each location that they volunteer at. If you're going to Goodwill one day and then you go to Spear another day, you need to turn in at least one volunteer agreement every time you go. I'm sorry, at least once to that location. So you always have to have that available, and you need to have it ready. If you don't have a printer, we can print it out for you there, but just make sure you have your password to Link and Learn, and we can print it out. But don't show up and let the site coordinator know that you're barely going to be taking your test to get your agreements, because you have to have tested prior to showing up. Timely filing. We assist the client that same night or that same morning that we are open, and we submit the tax return that same night and same morning. We don't leave a tax return for another day. You know, we don't tell them come back tomorrow or come back in 3 days. We always want to make sure that we start and finish that same day, because we don't want to lose the documents. We don't want to misplace any documents or forget about their tax return, because everyone needs to file their tax return before the deadline, and we just don't want to have that error. The next one is civil rights. Civil rights, all the sites will have a trifold with civil rights information and other information. It's a trifold that will be available at the entrance where the client comes in, and it's viewable for the client. That way they can read it. If they have any questions, there's the number that they can call to, or the address they can send if they have a complaint, they can reach out to that email. It's information for the clients and our volunteers, and I'll be showing it in a couple of slides. Site identification number and electronic filing identification number. Each site has a specific number that helps me and the IRS track how many tax returns we prepared and what days the site is open, what hours they're operating, and it gives us access to a lot of other things that allows us to follow the progress during the tax season. Usually me or the IRS or I take care of this information, but it's available for each location. And security, we want to make sure that we don't leave any documents, at the site. We want to be careful that because we're dealing with clients' documents, so we have their socials, their IDs. Just keep it together in their folder. Make sure that you're not sharing it with anyone. And make sure you keep that personal information to yourself. If there's a client behind them, you kind of want to tell them to, step back or wait in their vehicle until they're called, because there's a lot of information that we want to ask the taxpayer before we actually start on their tax return. So just keeping that security. Anybody have questions regarding these 10 quality site requirements? You can put it in the chat box if you do. Okay, failure to comply with the standards of conduct, removal from the Vita programs, inclusion in the IRS volunteer registry to bar future Vita activity indefinitely. So you will be included in that IRS list that doesn't allow you to volunteer with any Vita program, even if you go to California or New York. You won't be able to be part of a Vita program. Deactivation of your sponsoring partner site Vita TCE EFIN number. Removal of all IRS products, supplies, loaned equipment, and taxpayer information from your site. We don't have any IRS products. Everything that we provide at the sites are either United Way owned or in kind from the Vita locations where we're open at. Termination of your sponsoring organizations, partnerships with the IRS. Termination of grant funds from the IRS to your sponsoring partner, and referral to criminal investigations. So we are an IRS grant recipient. If we get, if we don't comply with these standards, we won't be able to get those funds. We won't be able to apply for that grant, and United Way would lose this Vita program, and which is very important for our community, right? So we don't want to not follow the IRS standards. Okay, I took a screenshot of what the volunteer agreement looks like. We will be going over this a little bit more on the next slide, but it looks like this. And every volunteer needs to complete the volunteer standards of conduct certification, which you're doing right now. You must adhere to the volunteer standards of conduct by agreeing to this form. The volunteer standards of conduct agreement must be completed or signed before you start working at a Vita site. So this is your name here at the top needs to match your driver license, and you do need to have an ID or a school ID and show it to your site coordinator to make sure that you have the correct name and if you're actually able to volunteer at the sites. I know a lot of you may not have a driver's license or an ID, but that's fine. If you have a school ID, that is fine. Return preparers, quality reviewers, and Vita tax law instructors must certify with an 80% or higher score in tax law prior to volunteering and signing this form. So it doesn't matter if you're the best site coordinator in the world or you're the most experienced Vita tax preparer. Every volunteer needs to have this form and submit it to the site coordinator at the location so they can store it in the Vita box. Turn in the form 13615 to a site coordinator at each site you volunteer at and show a government issued ID. Like I mentioned, the site coordinator will look at your identification and sign here in that form. I took a screenshot a little closer, zoomed in a little. So that form 13614 is available to print in Link and Learn after passing all your exams. Here I put some stars here where you will see the P for pass, and it will give you the option to sign electronically. There's going to be a little box that you can check mark. Once you check mark that, you can download your form and you'll have your electronic signature there. So your signature will be up here somewhere. And then the site coordinator will sign here at the bottom. So if you're a site coordinator, you will sign all your students here. You will sign your name and all your students' forms. If your volunteers are going to the site, just make sure to turn in this form to the site coordinator at that location. We are doing the standards of conduct. So right after this training, you will have a P here for passing. And then the next training is the intake, interview, and quality review. And the last training is the advanced scenario. I'm sorry, the advanced training. Not all Vita volunteers will be certified as advanced. So our Vita always wants our volunteers to be advanced, certified as advanced, just because we might have certain clients who have different type of income tax, right? And students who are certified to the basic level are not able to help doing that tax return, and they're just going to be getting skipped if we have only advanced tax return. So that's why we want to keep everyone to the advanced level, because we've done it like that for years. And every volunteer, if you have questions, the site coordinator is always there to guide you and to help you. Your name on the form should match your volunteer's driver license or ID card, like I mentioned previously here at the top. Don't put your nickname, and don't just copy it how it's in your ID. And there's a example of this form on your publication 6744, page 22. If you want to take a look at it and see how it looks, it's in that page 22 on your 6744. I believe so. Okay, so if you're a site coordinator and you're here at this training, you will have this box check mark, site coordinator, meaning that you completed the site coordinator training with the IRS. And I will share those links with you regarding those videos. They're just 2 videos that we had. The training happened in October, so I'll just share those videos. And this check mark here is, you can check it off in Link and Learn. It'll have a box there where you can check it off that you viewed those videos. Okay, at each location, we do want our volunteers to sign in every day that you're at the site. And this is the volunteer sign-in sheet. Please include the time you go in and the time you get out, your first and last name, your address, phone, and email, your certification level, and the total hours here. The site coordinator approves them, and every Friday sends this sign-in sheet to me, where we keep track of all the volunteer hours, because this is how we invite those volunteers who completed those 15 hours. And we also submit this to the IRS. Our volunteers should also wear a name tag every time they volunteer. We will have name tags available for each site. The volunteers should write down their name and the level of certification, which would be an A for advanced. So for example, I would put Janet Terrazas and then an A for advanced beside my name, and then I would wear my name tag. Usually before, when the IRS would show up at the sites, they would show up just like out of nowhere, right? And they would see if the volunteers are wearing their name tag. So we just want to practice and make sure everybody's wearing them so that when COVID's over and we're still a Vita, operating Vita site, we're just used to wearing our name tags all the time. So I know they're not gonna come in, but it's just something that we need to do. Okay, so when we meet with the client at the intake, right, when they're coming in for their appointment, there's several forms that need to be filled out. For example, form 14446 and the client sign-in sheet with the COVID-19 liability waiver at the back. This form 14446 was created for our sites that are drop-off sites. So this form basically summarizes our whole process and the steps that we follow, and the client just needs to sign here at the back that and make sure that they understand. They're supposed to read this form, right? But in order for us to just get their signature quickly, we just tell them this is the form that explains that the process that we're taking, and then that's when the client signs, right? They have their name printed, date of birth, last four of their social, date, phone number, email. They don't need an email. We just really need a signature. Next is the client sign-in sheet. It changed a little this year, but it has a site name, date, and the client's name, phone number, the time they came in, if they received financial literacy flyer, and their language. So this is a zoom in. It's a little crooked because I scanned it. So it's going to be here, for example, United Way or Lamar Academy, the date, the client's name, the phone number, and the language. If they have another language, they can write it in there. Let me see what else. I'm forgetting something here. The COVID-19 liability waiver, they don't need to sign every client doesn't need to sign one. If they sign in their name here, just the COVID-19 liability waiver is at the back of the sign-in sheet. So they're gonna go ahead and read this, and if they need to read the liability waiver, they'll just read that. It's just regarding the risk that there is, going to the Vita sites, and they can get COVID, and we just want to make sure they understand that. The financial literacy flyer will be available next to the sign-in sheet for the clients to take. It's basically just information on savings accounts and budgeting basics. They can take that flyer with them when they wait in their vehicle and read it out. We want to provide that to all our clients that are coming in, or at least most of the clients that are showing up, right? We will have that available in the Vita box for each location. This is the trifold that I was mentioning. It's going to be at the entrance of each location. We want to make it visible to all the clients, make sure it's at the entrance where they're coming in to sign in and drop off the documents. Every site will receive this trifold. Form 13614C is the form that it's this long form that we use in order to collect all the information for the client, okay? So there's a total of 4 pages, and we go over this form more in depth in the intake, interview, quality review section, but it has a lot of important information, like your personal information from the client, filing status, dependents, income, expenses, life events, additional information like if they would like a refund, direct deposit or not. And then this section here in the 3rd page is just questions regarding their language, their race, their ethnicity. And then the last page of that form is a consent to disclose tax return information to the Vita tax preparation site. And they have to sign here If they're only one person, right, they're filing a single, it's the primary taxpayer. If it's they're doing a married filing joint tax return, it's the taxpayer first and then their spouse second, and then they can sign, they can date. This is just regarding our Vita site has a software that if you're a previous Vita client, your information stays in our software, like your name, your the type of forms that you brought in. Not all the information stays, you know, but if you're a previous Vita client, your information auto populates when you go to the site, you know. So if a client from last year comes in, his information will pop up for us, because that's how our software works, and they agreed to, you know, to that consent. It's basically that, in case anyone has questions regarding this last page signature. All the Vita volunteers must use this form 13614C along with an effective interview for every return. Okay, so we don't skip over this form. Every single client will fill out one of these forms. I think this year we have green forms, which are for English language, and the yellow forms are Spanish, if I'm not mistaken. But every client must complete this form. Here, this is a sample one that I got from the publication 6744, but we will have the client's first and last name, their phone number, if they're US citizen. Make sure you don't skip that phone number question, because we will need it while we're doing the income tax. It won't let us continue, right, if we don't have that. Also, the mailing address, sometimes clients no longer use the mailing address from their ID. So if you're doing the intake interview with the client, you always want to make sure and ask them if that is where they receive mail, because the IRS communicates through mail, right? They won't call a client and they won't text a client. That's only a scam. But you want to confirm that that is the correct address. A lot of people have PO boxes and they want you to use a PO box, but they forget to let you know, right? So we always confirm that with the client. Also, date of birth is very important to match it with the ID. The job title as well. What do they work? What was their job title in 2021, right? If they're disabled, if they're a full-time student, or if they're legally blind, you just want to ask them those questions. A full-time student one is important as well, because they get specific credits because they're a student, right? If anyone can claim you or your spouse as a dependent, that's important too, because sometimes we get clients who, for example, I had a client who was like a 19-year-old, and she came to us to file her income tax, and she didn't tell us that somebody had already claimed her, right? But what happens is that if somebody already claims you as a dependent, your income tax won't go through, because somebody already has your social in another income tax, right? So I had to call her back and tell her, you know what, it's not going through because it says somebody else has already used your social somewhere else, right? So then she was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know. So then she calls her mom and her mother, and then asks her if she included her in her tax return. And yes, the mom had already put her in the income tax. So you want to make sure you ask those questions, because if not, it gets rejected, and then those rejection numbers affect our sites. The IRS will get like a flag, and it will identify the site that is doing high on rejection rates, and then they will get with me, and then I have to get with you. Also, the identity protection pin, people who are going through identity theft, they get a PIN number in the mail, right, from the IRS. With that number, we need to include it in their tax return. If not, it's going to be rejected as well. So you always want to ask that if they have a PIN number or not. They have the email address here at in the first page. Before it was in the one of the last pages, but it's here now. The filing status is here. I usually put, if a client is filing as single, I just write it out here, single. Or if they're doing married, they check mark here, or head of household here. If they have names listed here at the bottom, it means that they have dependents. So these are dependents here in the bottom, the date of birth, the relationship, number of months they've lived with them, if they're US citizens, residents, if they're single, married, full-time students, or totally and permanently disabled. After we've completed the whole form, we go back to this section as a site coordinator, and we ask them these additional questions. We don't skip this either. I say site coordinator because at the sites, it's going to be a site coordinator doing the intake interview or being the greeter, right? Because we don't want to expose our volunteers to the clients, but we sometimes have volunteers who want to be greeters and want to have that experience. We always tell our volunteers that if they feel comfortable, they need to let their site coordinator know that they want to be the greeter, but we always just have the site coordinators be the intake person. Let's continue. Okay, filing statuses. We only assist, remember, single, married filing joint. We do not accept married filing separate individuals, head of household, and qualifying widower, right? So no married filing separate. And head of household means that you have a dependent. You can't be a head of household if you don't have a dependent. So there's people that come into our office and say, I'm filing as head of household. And I'm like, okay, you have bills under your name, you have your own home, right? But do you have a dependent? And then they're like, no, I don't. Then they can't file as head of household. Their filing status is single. I hope that's clear. So if you're head of household, you need a dependent, right, to be filing as head of household. The standard deduction for 2021, every year it changes. And the standard deduction is the amount that taxpayers may subtract from their income before tax is applied. So this year, taxpayers filing as single, the standard deduction is $12,550. Taxpayers filing as married filing joint is $25,100. Taxpayers filing as head of household is $18,800. So basically, like it mentions here, the income of the taxpayer, let's say this person is earned $19,000 and they're filing as single because she's single, right? We will just subtract the $19,000 from the $12,550, and the rest would be that taxable income. I'm sorry about that. Let me admit some people. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know why it doesn't pop up. Okay. Certification level. Like I mentioned, not everyone will be certified to the advanced level. Some people will be advanced, some people will be basic. Our Vita volunteers at our United Way program are usually all advanced, but there's other sites, not here, that are certified as basic. And you can identify the tax returns that are required to have those individuals that are certified as basic, advanced. These questions here on the side identify the income tax, right? If they need somebody with that advanced level, it will be marked with the A. For example, you see here retirement income or payments from pensions, annuities, and they have the form 1099-R and it's marked as yes, then we already know that this tax return needs a volunteer who's certified as advanced. So if there is one of these questions that has an A and is marked as yes, it's automatically advanced. A person with the basic certification won't be able to assist this client. We also have a military or health savings certification level. Okay, so this is page number 2 on that form, and there's this income section, expense section, and life events. This year, life events section is very, very important because it has some questions down at the end where it mentions, let me move this, doesn't let me see, where it mentions if they received an economic impact payment, which is the stimulus. For those that don't know, we've already received 3 stimulus, right? Three stimulus checks. And this year, for this income tax season, we're looking for that 3rd stimulus check amount. So we're asking all our clients that come in, did you receive your 3rd stimulus? And they should tell you yes or no. And if they say yes, it's $1,400 for every individual, right? In their family. So if you want to write that down, 1,400, that's the amount that we're looking for. If it's just them filing as single, then they did receive it, it's 1,400. If they have a dependent, right, and it's them and their dependent, it's 2,800. So we just want to make sure we get that amount. And also if they received advanced child tax credit payments, families also receive this payments if they have a dependent, right? And they didn't opt out of those payments, they should receive an amount. They should have received an amount from July to December. And we'll go over this in a bit. They need to provide us with an amount because the IRS is requesting it, and if they don't provide the correct amount, their tax return is going to be delayed. So it's important for us to let them know that they need to provide the correct amount for these payments. If not, I had a meeting today with the IRS, and the IRS really stressed that it's going to delay them so much. They won't be receiving their tax return in probably like maybe a month. So they need to be careful with that. Also, another important thing is Form 1095A. That's a health form. If they had health insurance through the marketplace or Obama, that's what we always ask the client, if they had healthcare insurance with Obamacare, because if they did, they need to turn in that Form 1095A. And if they don't turn it in, their tax return will be rejected. And they won't get through, it won't go through until they submit that. Let's go up at the top over here. The ones that we usually get the most are W-2s, which is for, you know, people who had a job and wages, you know, they receive a W-2. People who are students in college receive 1098T. And we'll go over these forms in the advanced scenario training. There's some scenarios that have these forms, and you'll get familiar where to locate what type of form it is and all that. But it's really easy to identify each form just by following, you know, these people who are self-employed. Self-employed, here it is, self-employment income, people who work on their own, you know, maybe they have a car wash. You would mark this as yes. If they're self-employed, they're only bringing us total income amounts of the money that they received, maybe cash, right? They also include expenses, right? And if they have expenses, we usually write them down a total amount. I'm sorry, let me go back. You see this bottom additional comments? if they're self-employed, we usually write down the information here just because they provide us with the total amount of income they made and the total amount of expenses. We're not gonna be adding up receipts. And we do mention this to them when they're scheduling their appointment. We tell them, you need to bring us a total amount because we don't have the time to add up your expenses and add up all the income that you made during the whole year. Also, people who received unemployment, here it is, Form 1099-G. Very important to just go through this all with the client and make sure we collect all that information. So just want to touch topic on the child tax credit. What is the child tax credit? For those that don't know, the child tax credit helps families get advance payments for the last 6 months of 2021. So that's advance payments. It's advance payments from their actual refund that they should have received in total, like, now. And the remainder of the credit will be issued on their 2021 tax return. So they got this advance payments all these 6 months that have passed. And now the rest of it is they're going to be getting it when they do their income tax with us, right? So this credit is up to $250 to $300 per child, depending on the child's age and family's income. So everything can change based on the income of the families because the IRS just made this calculation for the families based on their previous year income tax, right? So everything can change. And I feel that we're going to get a lot of questions from the clients regarding their income or their refund, I'm sorry, but it's all based on their income. If they made too much or too little, all this is going to affect that refund that they'll be getting, the remainder of the refund that they'll be getting. This table will be in the Vita binder that will be at the Vita sites. So it basically just says the payment date that they should have received. These clients should have been receiving this credit July, August, September, October, November, and December 15 was the last payment that they should have received. They send out an Irs letter. Mr. Aguilar is saying they sent out an Irs letter for the child tax credit. Yes, the IRS has sent an Irs letter for all those people that have received the child tax credit, and we're gonna, when they're scheduling the appointment, we're gonna let them know if you receive the child tax credit money, then advance payments, I'm sorry, you need to bring that letter. I know a lot of people throw away letters, they don't even open them, but for those that do, it's going to be easy for us just to plug in that number. For those that don't, we are going to be telling them when they set up their appointment that we need a total on the amount that they received. So these are the payments, the schedule that they were getting paid all these months, and they should have received 6 payments, right? Based on the dependence they have, right? Also the stimulus number 3, that's the one we're looking for, $1,400 per person, and it was sent out March 2021. If you want to write this down, if clients have questions, well, I don't remember when it was sent out. It was in March 2021. Okay. And I created another table broken down just for us to see in case a client had more questions, and for us to kind of do the math for them if they don't remember. But it's going to be also in the Vita binder. This is children's ages 5 years and younger, children's ages 6 to 17 years. So for example, if I had a child, a 5-year-old, right, I should have been receiving $300 from July all the way to December, right? Those months I should have been receiving all that money. And if I were to have saved that money right now, I would have had 1,800, right? So that's what it means. The amount for the 6 months that I saved up is 1,800. Now the expected amount that the families are expecting to receive is 1,800 once they do their income tax. So a total child tax credit of 3,600. That's the total max child tax credit that they should be receiving. Of course, it's gonna vary with their income. It's not gonna be the same. They're not gonna be receiving this amount if their income is changed drastically based on the IRS determinations paying them this amount. If I have a 17-year-old, it was 250. I should have been receiving $250 from July to December. If I would have saved that money up, it would have been 1,500. And in my refund, doing it with Vita, I should have received 1,500, totaling a total of $3,000. So that's basically what it is for those who receive the child tax credit. There's families who did opt out from this. They didn't want to receive these advance payments. They said, no, I'm not going to get these payments. I'm going to get all my money when I do my refund, when I do my income tax, and that's it. So, but those families that did receive it, they do have to provide us with that amount. Yes, I can share the PowerPoint with you all. Or no, I'm going to be sharing a recording. I'm sorry. A recording of this training. Okay, next slide is, okay, so the next step is to complete our volunteer standards of conduct exam, and you will need publication 6744, the one that you have available. If you don't have it, I'm gonna go ahead and include it in the chat box. Once you have publication 6744, you can complete questions 1 through 10 for the standards of conduct, page 14. So if you go to page 14, let's go over to that page. There is 10 questions that we will go over. So let's go. We're gonna go over to link and learn to create that account. If you don't have an account already set up, I went ahead and included the www.linklearncertification.com in the chat box. You can open that link up. It should take you to this Vita TCE Central, where you can either sign in to your account or create an account. If you want to test right now, you can, but if you want to just get the answers for now, we can go ahead and do so. Let me go ahead and just go over the steps. You would go to create an account if you don't have an account. It's a self-registration page. You will be answering all the questions with asterisks on them. So you will select the Vita volunteer, number 1. Do you want to take the site coordinator certification? You select no if you're not a site coordinator. If you will be a site coordinator at the location, you're going to select yes. For those students who are just going to be volunteers, just go ahead and select no. Do you plan to volunteer in the Vita program? You're going to select yes. And these other ones for the, are you an instructor or Irs Spectors or a manager? You're going to select no. Even if you're a teacher, go ahead and select no. Training source is Link and Learn Taxes, e-learning. Then you're going to go ahead and enter your name. Your last name. Your username. A password. You're going to confirm your password. Email address. Confirm your email address. You're going to put your address. the city that you live in, state, Texas, zip code, for a time zone, we're gonna go ahead and select Central Time. And the years you volunteered with Vita, you can go ahead and select that. That's the last question with an asterisk. Everything else you can leave blank. You don't need to fill out anything else that does not have an asterisk in it. And you just register, and then it takes you back to the sign-in page where you would put the username and password. I'm gonna go ahead and log in just to show you all where it's located. 1 second. And it's going to be this first one, 2021 Volunteer Standards of Conduct exam. You're only going to be taking this one because this is the one we're completing right now. And we select it, and there's going to be a launch button here. That's the only one you're taking. Next time that we do the intake interview and quality review exam, it's going to be the second one. And you launch the same way, but for now it's only the Volunteer Standards of Conduct test. Okay, I'm going to go over to the publication 6744. If you don't have it, I put it in the chat box. Can everybody see my 6744? Okay, thank you. Okay, go over to let me zoom in here. Okay, test questions is on page 14. We're gonna go over these questions, and I want everyone to answer or put your answer in the chat box. That way we participate for this test. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Prior to working at the Vita site, all Vita volunteers, greeters, client facilitators, tax preparers, quality reviewers, etc., must A, annually pass the volunteer standards of conduct certification test with a score 80% or higher. B, sign and date the form 13615 volunteer standards of conduct agreement, agreeing to comply with the volunteer standards of conduct by upholding the highest ethical standards. C, pass the advanced tax law certification. D, all of the above, or E, both A and B. Okay, I'm seeing some answers there, and everybody's putting D. And yes, that is correct. I'm sorry. No. It's E. Yes, E. That is correct. The E is correct because remember that not everyone will pass the tax law certification. Some people will be certified to the basic level, and some people will be certified to the advanced level. So for number 1, should be both A and B. Everybody should pass the volunteer standards of conduct test with the 80% or higher. And everybody should sign and date the form 13615 Volunteer Standards of Conduct Agreement, agreeing to comply with the Volunteer Standards of Conduct by upholding the highest ethical standards. Okay, so number 1 is E. Yes, they can be basic. For number 2, can a volunteer be removed and barred from the Vita TCE programs for violating the Volunteer Standards of Conduct? Yes or no? Yes, and I'm seeing everybody answer as yes. So yes, we can be removed and barred if we violate those volunteer standards of conduct. We won't be able to participate at any Vita location if the IRS registers our name in their system. So that is correct. For number 2 is A. Okay, number 3. If a taxpayer offers you a $20 bill because they're so happy about the quality service they received, what is the appropriate action to take? A, take the $20 and thank the taxpayer for the tip. B, tell the taxpayer it would be better to have the $20 deposited directly into your bank account from his refund. Or C, thank the taxpayer and explain that you cannot accept any payment for your services. And D, refer the taxpayer to the tip jar located on the quality review and print station. Okay, I'm looking at everybody answer C, and that is correct. Thank the taxpayer and explain that you cannot accept any payment for your services. Remember that we can accept food if they bring us food, but of course, it's up to your site coordinator. We don't want to be accepting anything that's, maybe contaminated with COVID or something. I'm not sure, but you just want to be careful with that for your students. And also, if a client is very insistent that they want to give you something, right? Just let them know to maybe write down a thank you note for all our volunteers that are here. That way we can share it in an email, their message to all our volunteers. We can do that by getting a thank you message from them. Okay, but no money. We cannot accept any type of payment. Okay. For number 3, it was C. Number 4, Jake is an IRS tax law certified volunteer preparer at the Vita site. When preparing a return for Jill, Jake learns that Jill does not have a bank account to receive direct deposit of her refund. Let me see if somebody came in. Okay. Jill is distraught when Jake tells her that the paper refund check will take 3 or 4 weeks longer than the refund being direct deposited. Jill asks Jake if he can deposit her refund in his bank account and then turn the money over to her when he gets it. What should Jake do? A, Jake can offer to use his account to receive the direct deposit and turn the money over to Jill once the refund is deposited. Or B, Jake should explain that the taxpayer's federal or state refund cannot be deposited into a Vita TCE volunteer's bank account, and she will have to open an account in her own name to have the refund direct deposit. Or C, Jake can suggest to borrow bank account number from a friend because the taxpayer's name does not need to be on the bank account. Okay, I'm seeing everybody answer B to number 4, and that is correct. B is correct because even though Jake would be trying to help her, right, giving her information for his bank account, it can look different in the IRS eyes, meaning that if he's lending her the bank account, it looks like if he's paying, the volunteer, and we do not accept any payment, or we don't borrow any bank information from anyone, right? They cannot use a family member's bank account just because we don't want any issues with I used my my sister's bank account and now she doesn't give me my refund because I used her account. Any issues like that we don't want to be dealing with. So we always make sure that the routing, the blank check that they give us is under their name and their own, their own account. So number 4 is correct. B. Okay, number 5. Max prepares a tax return for Ali at a Vita site, and he finds out during the interview that Ali has no health insurance. After Ali leaves the site, Max writes down her name and her contact information down to take home to his wife, who sells health insurance for profit. Which of the following statement is true? A, there's no violation to the standards of conduct unless Max's wife makes a big commission on the sale of health insurance to Ali. B, Max has violated the volunteer standard of conduct because he's using confidential information to engage in a financial transaction to further his own or another person's interest. C, Max is doing Ali a favor by using her personal information to secure business for his wife. Or D, information a taxpayer provides at the Vita site can be used for the volunteer's personal gain. Okay, I'm seeing everybody answer B, and that is correct for number 5. Max has violated the volunteer standard of conduct because he's using personal information, right? And we cannot use personal information for our advantage. Let's say you have a business and you want to promote your business, you get all the clients' phone numbers and write them down in a log and then communicate and contact them later for them to, buy something from your business or anything like that. That's violating the standards of personal information confidentiality. So that is correct. Number 5 is B. Going over to number 6, Bob, an IRS tax law certified volunteer preparer, told the taxpayer that cash income does not need to be reported because the IRS does not know about it. Bob indicated no cash income on the form 13614C. Bob prepared the tax return, excluding the cash income. Jim, who is the quality reviewer, was unaware of the conversation and therefore unaware of the cash income, and the return was printed, signed, and e-filed. Who violated the volunteer standards of conduct? So Bob was the volunteer preparer who told the taxpayer that cash income does not need to be reported. All cash income, remember, if you're self-employed, needs to be reported. So I'm seeing everybody put A, and you're saying that Bob, the tax law certified volunteer who prepared the tax return? That is correct. Bob, because even though he knew that the client had cash income, he told him not to report it because the IRS doesn't know about it. So that's a big red flag, right? He's the one that violated that standards of conduct. He knew it was wrong. He knew that the client has to report it. Maybe he didn't want to because he didn't want the tax return to be longer, right? But he's the one that violated the standards of conduct. Jim, the quality reviewer, he wasn't aware of the conversation. Therefore, he wasn't aware of that cash income that needed to be included, right, in the tax return. So Jim didn't violate the standards of conduct, and Betty, the coordinator, well, she wasn't involved, so she wasn't the one that violated that standards of conduct. So for number 6, the answer is A, Bob. Number 7, Sue, a Vita TCE coordinator, was watching the local news when she saw Aaron, a new tax law certified volunteer, in a story about several bank employees being arrested for suspicion of embezzlement. She saw Aaron being let out of the bank in handcuffs. 3 days later, Sue is shocked when she sees Aaron show up at the site ready to volunteer, apparently out on bond. She pulls Aaron aside and explains that his arrest on suspicion of embezzlement could have a negative effect on the site, and therefore she must ask him to leave the site. Sue removed his access to the software, and she then uses the external referral process to report the details to the IRS spec by sending an email to wi.bolttax@irs.gov. Did Sue take the appropriate actions as a site coordinator? Okay, I see everybody answer A, and that is correct. Remember, we don't want to get involved in any criminal situation, anything like that, that can affect, the Vita program. So, as a site coordinator, we are required to report anything like that to the IRS, just to keep them informed of what is going on at the site, since it's an IRS program. So yes, the site coordinator did take the appropriate actions on contacting the IRS using that email address. For number 7, the answer is A, yes. Number 8, Heidi is a volunteer standards of conduct certified volunteer, and she's working in the intake station. As part of her duties, she's required to explain to the taxpayer that they're expected expected to do today as part of the return preparation process. What should Heidi tell them? Form 13614C, intake interview and quality review sheet, must be completed prior to having the return prepared. Or B, you will be interviewed by the return preparer and asked additional questions as needed. And C, you need to participate in quality review of your tax return by someone other than the tax preparer. And D, all of the above. What do y'all think for number 8? Okay, remember that at each site we follow a process. A process that is to fill out that form 13614C during the intake interview quality review sheet, right? Before having the return prepared, we complete that. And we also get interviewed, the client gets interviewed on those questions answered, right? They get interviewed on that form that we complete with them. And they need to participate in the quality review because they need to know what is the refund they're getting. They need to make sure all their documents have been included in their tax return, and they need to be reviewed by somebody else, right, other than the tax preparer. So this question requires all of the above. For the preparation process, she should let the client know that it's a process and that all these steps will be that the client will be part of all these steps because it's their tax return. They need to be informed on everything that we're doing. So the answer for number 8 is D, all of the above. Okay, for number 9, during the intake process, the volunteer should verify the taxpayer and secondary payer, if married filing joint, has a government issued photo identification. Additionally, taxpayers must provide verification of taxpayer identification numbers, social security number or ITIN number for everyone listed on the tax return. Is that true or false? Okay, I have some answers there. A for true, and that is true. Remember, we want to ask the taxpayer and the secondary taxpayer, which is their spouse, for a government issued ID and a social, and for any other buddy listed, like their dependents, their social security number or ITIN number. So that is true for number 9. And the last question for this test is number 10 on page 17. Mary, a volunteer standard of conduct certified greeter, reviews the tax return, the taxpayers completed form 13614C, page number 2, to identify what potential volunteer certification level is needed for this tax return. Mary sees that the taxpayer has checked yes box indicating that she has self-employment income, and the certification level next to that question is A. All other questions answered yes have a B certification. When Mary assigns the return to a tax preparer, what tax law certification level does a tax preparer need? Okay, I'm seeing some answers there for A, advanced. And yes, that is correct. Remember that if a question has an A on the side and it's marked yes, then that tax return needs somebody at the advanced level, no matter what. No matter if they have other questions with B, but if it has 1A, they need somebody at the advanced level. Okay, so if you got all the answers, you're ready to take the test for the volunteer standards of conduct. Remember to go over to Link and Learn, create that profile, and go over to the volunteer standards of conduct test, launch, and take that test. Remember I mentioned that your volunteer agreement will be available once you finished all the tests, right? So by checking that box, your signature will be electronically in your form. So you can check mark that already. And you can download your volunteer agreement here. This is the form that you will, the form that you will need to take at the site. You will get a certificate that you finished, but it's not the certificate that we need at the sites. It's the actual form with your signature. So this is where you would get that. If you are a site coordinator, you have to review this site coordinator training here. And that's where you could check mark that box that I mentioned earlier. Next exam for next time that we meet, it's going to be the intake interview and quality review exam, which is the next one here. We don't have to take any other one other than this one, and then we go to the advanced, but that's until Saturday. Does anybody have questions regarding this section? Go ahead and enter it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask. Any teachers have any questions? For those who no, okay, for those who haven't created an account with the, I'm gonna be downloading these recordings and sending you all the link for the recordings, or your teachers. I'm gonna be sending them out. If you haven't created an account with the Vita Tax Layer Pro, we have a few minutes. I can go ahead and go over that. It's vita.taxlayerpro.com. I can copy that into the chat box right now. If you don't have an account, go ahead and use the link to go over to this page. Remember that it always has vita.taxlayerpro.com, because there is TaxLayer Pro is another software that any other person can use, but ours is vita.taxlayerpro.com, and you can write that down on your booklet so you don't forget. Vita.taxlayerpro.com. And this is the practice lab where we do the advanced scenarios, And this is the Pro Online where we use when we're actually at the sites. If you don't have an account, go over to Practice Lab. Here in, it's asking for a password. So the password here is Train Pro Web. I'll type it in the chat box, all capitalized. It's Train Pro Web. And then we're gonna log in. It's gonna take you to a sign-in section or create an account if you don't have one. For those that don't have an account, you're gonna go ahead and create an account. Takes you to this section where you include an email address. You confirm your email address. You create a username, a password. The password is very long, so make sure you write that password down. I don't know why they make it so long for us, but it's going to be very long. The program type is Vita. The site identification number, you can leave that one blank. Security question, you can select any of these and write down your answer there. The security answer at the bottom. And that's all you need. You can leave the site identification number blank and create account. If you already have an account, you can already log in. Try logging in already, because Saturday we will be using that. If you have an account already, that's fine. You can log in at your own time. I'm just showing for those that do not have an account. And if you teachers know how to create an account for your students, you can show them on your own time if you want. And I'm gonna log in really quick just to show you all how it looks like. You don't have to log in if you don't have it right now. We will be using it on Saturday. This is where it's going to take us to the home page, and we are going to select go to Practice Lab to complete those advanced scenarios. But this is what it's going to look like. There is some sections down at the bottom that we can look into if we want to have more training on the tax layer, but we usually don't view this. I view those, but we don't view this for the training. We go to the practice area. And this is what it looks like. We start a new tax return, or we look for clients that we've already helped. And here's at the top, we can change the years. If I've already helped the client and we go to search for client, you will see all those clients that we have either in progress, in review, in the review stage, or we can start a new tax return, which we always start with their social security number. You don't have to mess with this section at the bottom, just the social here at the top. And that's basically it. This looks exactly how it looks like if you were actually preparing a tax return. So make sure that when you're actually preparing a tax return, you're not using the Practice Lab, because you're just going to be wasting your time. You can mess with this and it won't affect anything at all. But this is only the Practice Lab. I'm going to log out. And that is it. Does anybody have questions regarding this, how to create an account? If you don't, then I'm gonna stop the recording here.